All right. I am with my guest this week, somebody I'm very excited to talk poker with. One, Steve Begleiter. You might know him from the 2009 World Series of Poker main event, November 9, finished in sixth place for almost $1.6 million. That was the same final table as Phil Ivey, Darvin Moon, and Joe Cotta, who ultimately won. Steve, it's been a long time, but thanks for taking the time to chat with me here at Poker News.
No, thanks for reaching out, Chad. Happy to do it.
It's actually, as we record this, it's Super Bowl Sunday. We were just talking a little bit about football off the air. By the time people see this or listen to it, the big game will be over. But who are you pulling for?
I'm actually pulling for Joe Mixon. So I live in New York. FanDuel or whatever became operative on January 1. And I've been betting like each week Joe Mixon to get over 25 receiving yards. And like that's my big play on the Super Bowl. So I don't really have a rooting interest in the game, but like I just think the market is really undervaluing those checkdowns to Joe Mixon.
All right, well, we'll see soon enough. The game is about 8 hours away from when we're recording this, but what we're here to talk about is poker. This kind of a catch up. Like, where have you been? Sort of piece. Looking over your poker tournament results. It's been a while. That 2009 run was your big score. Your only other WSOP cash came back in 2016 in the Monster Stack. And then the only other Hendon Mob cash that you have on your profile is ninth in the 2009 WPT Legends of Poker. So let me start unpacking this by asking, what are you up to these days?
Well, that's a good question. So, I'm not a professional and I got a busy life. So I would say that I started playing shortly, like maybe 2007. I played the main event 2008. And really between 2008 and 2009, I put a lot of time into the game. In 2009, obviously, I caught lightning in the bottle. Very little bad stuff had happened to me. I hadn't had that many 2-outers or 4 hours of no cards, okay? And so I probably played the main event the next 5 years, 6 years. And I busted myself once or twice. But basically, all those bad things that I thought only happened to other people happened to me. And there are no results to show for it. And then sort of life got in the way, aging parents, work, stuff like that. And I stopped going for a few years and really just limited my poker to my friends in the community I live in. But this year I turned 60, like just last week. And the present my wife is giving me is like I can play as many poker tournaments as I can fit into my schedule. Because I did play the main event back in the fall and I hadn't played in 5 years. And there was definitely rust. And I just can't show up once a year and play. So I just hopped down to Hard Rock for a little they had a WPT there. And I got the Win Millions on my account. So I got like a whole like 60th birthday cycle of tournaments. And hopefully I'll show up at the WSOP. And if nothing bad happens, make it past day 3. That's what's going on. It's been pretty dormant. But this year I'm trying to have a bit of a renaissance.
I'm excited to hear about the Win Millions because I will also be out there for Poker News on site. So we'll have a chance to maybe catch up in person. And it's such a great tournament. And just, getting back into the swing of things in poker is exciting, I think. Look, a lot of people grew up with poker after the moneymaker boom, the boom years of 2004, 5, and 6. And then we still got really familiar with people from the 07, 08, and 09 final tables, and you were certainly there, and you were at one of the more iconic ones when Joe Cotta won, defeated Darvin Moon heads up, but also one Mr. Phil Ivey was at that final table. You outlasted him by one spot. You finished 6th. He finished in 7th place. Looking back, what was that whole experience like? I think a lot of listeners, myself included, can only dream of making the WSOP main event final table.
Yeah, I would say it's like one of the thrills of a lifetime. And it's not just like you're playing with Phil Ivey and like, you bet, everybody folds, you take the blinds and 1,000 people cheer. But if you remember, I had won my stake in a local tournament. So I had 20 partners. I had 100 friends and family out there. And it was just a great shared experience. And I'm still friends with many of those people today. So it's as much as you would like it to happen to you, should. It was really, looking back, just a really, really fun time. And I'm very proud. Like, so we did a lot of good with it. Obviously I want a bit of money. We organized some charity tournaments for the next couple of years. for wounded veterans, the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. Not only did my group support it, a lot of poker players came and supported it. Dennis Phillips showed up and busted himself a number of times and wrote a bunch of checks. And so we're able to give some back, which was good. We just have a lot of really good memories of that. And we are trying to get somebody to do it again. Hopefully me, but if it's one of my friends, that's fine. And we've burned quite a few buy-ins trying. Okay, it's hard. Okay, it's really hard.
Well, talking about poker friends and talking about charity, one of the reasons that I reached out to you was Gershon Distenfeld, WSOP bracelet winner, a good friend of myself and PokerNews, won a bracelet this past summer. I know you guys are friends, and your name came up, and I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, can you get me in touch with Steve Begleiter?" And here we are. So I'm grateful for him. But how did that friendship with Gershon come about? And were you able to kind of live vicariously or enjoy his big win this past WSOP?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Gershon works for a company, and the guy who runs the company is one of my closest friends, and we went to college together. So Gershon will appreciate this story. A couple of years ago, my friend, his boss, sends me probably a blurb from PokerNews, okay? And it describes a hand Gershon played in a relatively modest buy-in tournament at the Parks, okay? And I explained to him what it meant, okay? And then that got us connected sort of. And then he had that great run where he made the final table. And he worked with Jonathan Little, who I worked with. And so we started talking then and definitely rooting for him. And, we've stayed in touch since then. He moved down to Florida. He's not far from the Hard Rock. So I hope to see him on one of my trips down there. But yeah, it's a very small world. And as you know, poker players like to help each other and connect and stuff like that. And through Jonathan Little and through this guy who I went to college with, who he works for, we've gotten, I'd say, we have a very good poker friendship.
Yeah, Gershon, after he won the bracelet, donated that money to charity, and allowed PokerNews to choose where some of that went, which was very generous. And then Jonathan Little, a great friend of PokerNews, does a lot of strategy articles. So it is cool, like you said, there's these circles in poker, and people stay connected. And I want to ask you a little bit more about the main event final table that you were at. Let me start with one Darvin Moon, who has unfortunately passed away since. I think that was about a couple of years ago where he passed away. He finished in second place. He was the huge chip leader going into that final table. I always remember it because he was the chip leader. This was still at a time in the poker world where you could get sponsorship money for wearing a patch and things like that. And he said no, he didn't want to wear any. He was offered some good sums of money, as I understand it, and said no. And so I always remember Darvin Moon from that. But do you have any good Darvin Moon stories or experiences from your time at the final table with him?
Yeah, in the run up to the table, we were just always in different groups, right? So I never really played with him till we got 10-handed, okay? And obviously I watched him a lot on the ESPN. I'm sure everybody watched everybody. And he was in the 1 seat, I was in the 5 seat, and I was third in chips. And my coaches were like, stay away from him. I also had Elon Schwartz, right? He's the big stack. And I'm like, no, he's got all the chips and he's not a pro. I want to play big pots with him. How am I going to outplay Phil Ivey over 12 hours? Well, win big pot from Darvin Moon. So I was expecting confrontations, and we had a very big pot that I won. Okay. He ultimately busted me on a suck out. And so I didn't really know him very well. Over the years, I'd run in the next few years at the WSOP, we'd run into each other, we'd talk. He is a really nice guy, okay? Just really good demeanor. My interactions with him were really, really positive, and I was very sad when I learned of his passing.
It certainly was a big loss. Also at that final table, some people, Joe Cotta is still crushing it in the poker world, Anton Seout, Eric Buckman, Jeff Schulman of Card Player Magazine fame, Kevin Schaffel, who I actually caught up with just a couple of years ago now, and then James Aikenhead. This was still in a time when they did the November 9 concept, which they've since moved away from. What are your thoughts on that? Did you like the whole November 9 experience where it gave you time to kind of take a break and recharge, or would you have preferred to maybe play it straight out? What are your whole thoughts on it?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I liked the November 9 experience from the experience standpoint, okay? I was running so good and was so confident and felt so immortal, it probably would have been best to when we busted down to 9 to keep playing. Like, I don't like, it probably would have been in my, I just, so the reset gives everybody a chance to study, train, and watch the tapes, and you're never really the same player once you get other voices in your head. And I certainly got a lot of good, so I think like if we had just kept playing, probably would have been to my advantage. But I think experientially, it was much better having the November 9. Like the ability to get all of these friends and family out there and stuff like that. That's really sharing it with people. I think it's sort of sad that that's kind of, I mean, obviously they give you a day off or whatever, and you can get part of your group out there, but it's just not quite the same. Like if I were to make the final table again, your first thought is who's going to be watching the 30-minute delay and like giving me the hands, and it's just a different dynamic. So experientially, the November 9 was pretty special, having that gap.
You said you had like 100 people out there. I know that you have your wife, you have your 3 children, Josh, Caroline, and Aaron, if I'm not mistaken. Were they all out there for this experience? Yep. Like, were they old enough? I don't even know the ages or anything like that.
No, they weren't old enough to come into the arena.
Okay.
But they all came. I got some nieces and nephews that came. But I had like 20 partners. They pretty much all got spouses. When 20 guys come to Vegas, another 20 guys come as well, because like everybody's in Vegas. I mean, I have a guy that I buy wine from out in the Napa Valley, not a lot. And he's like, can I get a ticket? Okay. He likes poker. So he has some friends from work in LA. So just, it's like, it doesn't take a lot to give people an excuse to go to LA, to Vegas. And right. It was really like, that was really the best part of the whole thing. Just having everybody there. The dinner the night before and the drinking after I busted, like those were really good memories too.
I know a lot of the listeners would be remiss with me if I didn't ask about Phil Ivey, right? Everybody loves a good Phil Ivey story. You got to play at the final table with him. Any good memories, any good stories with Phil Ivey, or was it intimidating at all? Because obviously sure. All eyes were kind of on him at that final table.
Yeah, so like back then took 8 days to make the final table. I first played with Phil on day 6, okay? And, I'm updating my group. I had a BlackBerry back then. I'm like, Phil Ivey just got moved to my table, okay? And first hand I played with him, I had pocket 9s. I just have a really good memory for old hands, right? And the flop comes with like 2 queens and a 4, okay? And like he was the aggressor and he bets and I call. And like, there's no way Phil Ivey has a queen here, right? And there's 2 more rags and he bets the river. And I quickly call because I'm sure my 9s are good, that he can't have a queen. And he doesn't have a queen, he's got pocket aces, okay? And I'm like, wow, okay. I did not see that coming. It's like you're looking to your right and a train hits you from the left. So they did show a hand on, but he's just a player, right? And like they do show a hand on ESPN where I bluffed him, won a small pot during the thing. And like Phil Ivey, like what I noticed about him, one, he's very polite. Like if he'll share almonds, he'll chat a little bit, but he's a predator. I mean that in a good sense. He was back when I played, he was laser focused. His eyes were on everything. He missed nothing. His face gave away nothing. And, he was a predator in a good sense. And so I had I would say a lot of fun playing with him. I had a lot of fear playing with him. And there was a hand at the final table. I don't want to take a lot of time, but like I had pocket 7s.
Please do.
We're 7-handed, pocket 7s. I open. Phil Ivey's in the big blind. He's pretty short. Okay. And he calls. And the flop is like Jack, Queen, King, 2 diamonds. Okay. He checks. I bet. He calls. I'm like, I'm done betting here, right? Because it's Phil Ivey, right? So another jack, and then check, and then a rag. I check, and he bet 35% a pot, which was about half his chips. I had watched every hand I could of Phil Ivey on YouTube, and I noticed that when he made big value bet, that we had big hands, he made big value bets. I mean, this was a long time ago, but that was one of the things I had stored, 80% a pot, whatever. And I go, what does 35% a pot mean? But like, what can I beat? It's Jack, Queen, King, Jack, whatever. And I got 7s and it's Phil Ivey. Okay. And if I call and lose, like there's like 3,000 people here all rooting for Phil Ivey. I'm going to be like the biggest idiot, but like I can beat ace 4 of diamonds. Okay. Like I know I can beat ace rag of diamonds, which there are 2 diamonds on the flop. But I thought about it and I folded. And I had no idea like what he had. when they showed the ESPN the final table, they show that hand. They show me with my pocket sevens, and as soon as they showed my sevens, I knew he bluffed me, okay? And he had ace-9 of diamonds, okay? And I would say if I was playing against like you in a 2-5 cash game, I look you up there. But like Phil Ivey at the final table, I gave him the respect because I didn't want to be the idiot who gave Phil Ivey chips, okay? And yeah, like I still remember that. I'm sure he doesn't, but probably played 4 million hands since then. But yeah, I remember that.
I'm glad you.
I kind of wish I called, okay, but like, I didn't.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that one. That one's great because as I'm listening to that story, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this can picture ourselves in that same exact spot. Like, oh shit, this is Phil Ivey. Do I really want to give him chips? You know, and yeah, that what a
he's
spot.
Gonna turn over King Jack, and I'm gonna look like an idiot, right? Calling his his little tiny bet with a big underpair. So
yeah, it seems like one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of spots.
Right. I had a lot of chips then, so like it was like it gave me a chance to blow them on something else.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I appreciate you taking the time to reminisce a bit about that final table. I'm very excited to hear that you're kind of venturing back into the poker world. Very excited to possibly see you out there at the Win Millions or the World Series of Poker this summer. Are you active on social media or anything like that? If there's anybody out there who wants to keep on top of you, they're just going to have to do it through me at Poker News, right?
Yeah, I'm not, I work for a firm where our social media is very closely policed, so I don't really do much on social media. But I am on Facebook and Twitter. LinkedIn is actually the best way to get a hold of me. I'm on LinkedIn, and if people want to reach out, I do read my LinkedIn's, and I get contacted a lot that way. LinkedIn's probably the best thing. Or through you would be great too.
Cool. Well, again, I appreciate you taking the time and really look forward to covering you. Like I said, if you're at Win Millions, we're definitely going to get you, get some photos, get you in those updates and see if you can't put together a nice little run.
Appreciate it. I will let you know if I'm out there. Thank you, Chad.
If you did enjoy this video and would like to see more of this type of content, please consider subscribing. For the best poker updates, strategy, and analysis, visit PokerNews.com.